And the GFS caves. What a caving caver of a model it is. Of course, we knew that, didn't we? As a matter of fact, if you forecast the opposite of the end of the GFS run, you'll be right about 99% of the time. See, that's how easy forecasting the weather is. Just joking a little bit, but if you use the GFS past day 5, you're doing so at your own risk. In any event, all the models seem to be converging around this idea of a big front coming through the center of the country around Thanksgiving, pushing east, so that much of the center and eastern portion of the country will be below normal as we get on into the Thanksgiving weekend. We'll take a look at some of that stuff, and I've got a couple of other things to show you. Spent a good portion of yesterday's show talking about all of the signals coming together, still coming together, to make a cold, potentially cold and stormy December for much of the nation. And I'm not going to rehash all of that. You can go watch yesterday's video. It's at the end of this one. It's linked there, so you can just check it out there. But I'm going to show you a couple of signals that are still on track here in a minute. And we'll take a look at the European Ensemble projected snowfall map over the next couple of weeks. That's pretty interesting to my eye anyway. But here is the GFS. And it's been running on your screen. Here it is as we go on out the next 24 hours to and through Thanksgiving. And we got a big ridge over much of the country this week, keeping us very, very warm. We'll look at some of those temperatures in a minute. And you can see a big storm system kind of lingering here off in centered really over the Baja of California and moving around and about the southwest. And that will continue through the week. Much warmer than normal temperatures will prevail up here in the northwest across the northern tier and back into the southeast, except for the northeast. You still have a couple of shots of cool air coming in out of Canada and the flow up there as we get on out in toward Monday. Storm system moving across center portion of the country, and we get on out here toward Wednesday and toward Thursday. Look at this, a big push of Arctic air. There's your EPO ridge. We talk about this. This helps to establish a cross-polar flow of cool Arctic air, cold Arctic air, in some cases frigid Arctic air if it's the right time of year, and we're getting into that time of year, right straight out of Canada and through from the Arctic, even across Siberia at times, plunging it into the eastern and central United States. You can see that block showing up very, very well there. Even a positive PNA. This is this big ridge we talk about. This is just a good illustration here, folks. So I'm going to stop it and just show you this. When you get a big ridge going up out here, you get troughing in this part of the country. And that is what you want to see if you live in the central and eastern portion of the country. Of course, if you're out here in Oregon, my friend in Oregon was wondering about the weather out here. Not looking for big snow out here outside of the Cascades, unfortunately, over the next couple of weeks up in the Pacific Northwest. It's going to be warm to start. We'll get some punches of cooler air as we go on out in time, but no big snowstorms up there. It doesn't look like outside of the higher terrain. But as we get on out toward Friday, look at this. Warm in the west and cool with that big front pushing through Friday of next week after Thanksgiving into the weekend, and it's going to be cool and followed by potentially a warm shot with more cool air on the way. Wanted to show you that. Here's the European AI. It's been all over it. We've kind of see the sort of a similar pattern as we get on out toward Wednesday of next week. There it is. European AI has been rock solid on this for a good long time. And so all of the other models have finally converged on this idea. There's that big cold front coming through, cooling us off for the weekend. We warm up behind it, and there's another big punch, another storm system and trough out here in the west. So you guys will be cooler as we get on in toward the latter portion of next weekend out here with another big block going up out in time. As a matter of fact, we just run this on ahead. You can kind of see what's going on. You get a big block out here toward the Gulf of Alaska, pushing into Alaska, trough out west, ridge in the east, keeping everybody warm as you get on out toward the first part of December. But then here it comes, cool air. That ridge migrates into the west. We get a little bit of a jet extension, and this would be a negative PNA. You see this trough here? Talk about these indexes. You get kind of troughing back here along the west coast. That sends a ridge up in this way, and you get southerly flow and you warm up, but don't expect that to last. We've seen these things correct, and so as we get on out to early December, maybe it warms up a little bit briefly along the east coast, and then we get back cool again. But look at this in the west coast, Pacific Northwest, under this ridge influence, and probably we're going to see more ridging along the west coast too as this corrects a little bit more out in time, probably some warmer temperatures out there. Now, can you find the front here? Watch this. We've run this out to day 5. This is Monday. We'll come back and look at the next couple of days in a minute, but look at this. Big warm temperature anomalies over much of the nation outside of the Pacific Northwest and the Northeast. As we run this on out through Tuesday and Wednesday, can you find this front? Look, there it is. Boom, big Arctic plunge coming in for the northern tier, spreading east as we get on in here toward the end of Thanksgiving Day, early, I think the day after Black Friday morning. Look at this cold air, just cold air advection all across the eastern portion of the country. You guys are warming up out west. We get on in toward the end of the weekend, and look at that little cool air coming into Portland and Salem and up here towards Seattle. Not enough to get you any snow, unfortunately. Probably highs in the 30s or so, maybe even 40s, but still going to be cooler than normal. And then we warm up again. That's kind of what that's showing. And we get another big front as we get on out toward the end of the run. This is about 2 weeks out, and it pushes back into the east. There you see it coming in with another shot of Arctic air. So we're in that time of year. We're in phase 7 in the MJO. Really favors much of that cold air, the strongest signal for cold air across the northern plains, and then plunging into the center portion of the country and spilling to the east as we get on into phase 8. Much of the center and eastern portion of the country are favored for cold air, and that looks like what is going to happen. We're going to look at that here in just a second. As a matter of fact, if we take a look at temperatures over the next Thanksgiving week period, we're at Monday morning, and you can see 50s, 40s, and 50s for much of the nation outside of the southeast, and these blue colors here are below freezing temperatures. So where you see that, you're looking at temperatures below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And we get on out toward Wednesday and Thursday. There comes the big Arctic plunge, and much of the nation now is below freezing. These are low temperatures. We get on in toward the afternoon and look at those high temperatures. You're looking at temperatures getting up into the 30s and 40s for a good chunk of the nation. That's pretty cold, though, for this time of year. So if this is right, and it looks like it will be because most of the models and ensembles are converging on this, we're going to see some really cold temperatures for a good portion of the country, centered into the plains in the east and northeast as we get on in toward next weekend. Okay, so that's what's going on. And so you can expect as you head out the door Thursday morning, you're probably going to be warm along the East Coast, and then on Friday, you head out the door, it's going to be a totally different story. Okay, so watch the weather forecast. I'll keep you posted here. And then finally, check this out. This is our snowfall map from the European ensemble mean. Okay, so we're out here already. I've run this out toward day 5, so this is next Monday. We've got some snow in the higher elevations, the Rockies, maybe even in the lower train, but not a lot of it. Saw some snow up here in Pennsylvania. If you're up here watching, let me know if you saw any snow. I know some of you did. Still snowing a little bit this morning on the northern edge of the precipitation shield, but not a lot, just maybe an inch or two slushy inches up there. But look at this as we go on out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Look what happens here. We start to get cold temperatures, little storm systems moving across, working into that cold air. And look at what the European ensemble does. It just advances the snowpack south. We fill in a bit over here in Western Canada where we've needed the snowfall, okay? And so that's good news. Eastern Canada picks it up, and by the end of the run, and again, don't take these snowfall maps literally. Of course, this is an ensemble mean, and it's just projecting what all the members are saying in terms of their individual snowfall maps and sort of averaging that together. But as we go on out in time, as we get colder and colder and colder, and we sort of step down into that colder pattern, you should expect more and more snowstorms to start showing up in the modeling, and even small snow events and lake effect snow and things like that. So it's not surprising to see the snowfall mean map march to the south. It's even got a couple little impulses working through North Carolina. The GFS had one of these post-Thanksgiving where it brought in a little bit of snow shower activity, the central portion of the North Carolina and up into Virginia as well. We'll see if that pans out. That's way out in time, so we're not really going to have any accuracy on that right now. But in any event, looking like a good map to me. If we want to see cold weather in December, we want to see the snowpack build, and that's what the European ensemble is showing. So we'll see if that continues to hold. Now I've got your weather IQ question. I want to see how much you know about space weather. Got one more question there, and then we're going to get into some of the signals that continue to support a cool December. I'm going to show you that, and we'll wrap up with the forecast over the next couple of days, get you into the weekend. All right, as I said, today's weather IQ question is about space weather, particularly the northern lights. That's not really in space, but it has to do with space. And so here's what the question is. During which part of the solar cycle Are the northern lights typically the strongest? The solar minimum, the solar maximum, the equinox period, or the lunar eclipse phase? If you know it, type it in the comments. If not, just wait till the end of the show and I will let you know. Right now, I'm going to let you know what we're looking at for the next several weeks as we go on out in time. Talked about that yesterday. Going to talk about the latest data showing and then get you out of here with the local forecast and what the sun is doing. All right, we've been looking at this every day. We're going to continue to look at it as long as it's in the forecast. This is the stratosphere, and this is the warming potential of the stratosphere. And it shows, this graph shows the weakening of the vortex as it begins, the stratosphere starts to warm, the vortex weakens. And now we're seeing a good solid signal for a wind reversal, which could act to really stretch that vortex. Now, it doesn't completely destroy it and annihilate it. As you can see, things start to return toward normal as we get way out in time toward the end of January. But this is a good, strong signal continuing to show up in the European model suite for a good warming here in the near term as we get toward the end of the month. And that stays weak through December, which is what you want to see. And by the way, just so you know, whenever you get a stratospheric warming event, it does not mean 100% of the time that an Arctic invasion is going to happen over your house with 2 feet of snow. It means that there is the greater potential for the Arctic air to be displaced somewhere across the northern hemisphere, and depending on how things set up upstairs, that will dictate how that happens. A lot of times that indeed happens to be in the United States, and of course as the jet stream buckles in the troposphere where we live, you get cool air out of the north and you have the potential for bigger storms to develop. And so that's what we're watching for. And there's usually a lag time, maybe 1 to 2 to 3, even 4 weeks at times. So either way, this is a do no harm signal if you're a cold winter weather fan, okay? This is something that can support a cooler than normal winter, at least in the portion of the winter where this will take effect, and it would last for a couple of weeks more than likely. And so that's how that typically works. We'll have to watch and see how the 500 millibar pattern sets up as we get on through the month of December. But this is a good sign. It's not bad, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee anything in and of itself. Some of the other stuff that we watch is the index things that we talk about. And one of those index things is the Arctic oscillation that is blocking over the pole. So you get these higher heights over the North Pole, and it sort of tends to bring and drain cool air into the United States. And so when it is in its negative phase, and it's right here, it's been negative, it looks to shoot positive and then come back negative again. And so we see a little oscillation with this from time to time, but predominantly it's been negative, and that's a good sign. Hopefully we'll see that continue to persist if you're a cold weather fan. The NAO, we've talked about that, the North Atlantic oscillation, that's the same sort of concept, but it sets up a little bit farther to the east in eastern Canada and around Greenland, and you get the negative phase where we've been in negative phase. We get a lot of blocking up there. It slows the storm track down, helps cold air filter into the eastern United States. A lot of times our biggest east coast snowstorms occur during a negative NAO when we're descending into it and coming out of it. So we'll watch for that, but it looks to stay predominantly negative, gets toward positive again, and maybe comes back again negative. And then finally on the west coast, we have the Pacific North American index that we look at, and that is the PNA. When it's positive, you get a ridge out west and a trough in the east. Well, it's been positive and it looks to go negative. That would be a trough in the east or the west and a ridge in the east, bringing warm temperatures to the east. And so maybe we'll see a little bit of a kind of an oscillation here, but it looks to go negative and then come back toward neutral again. But again, we'll watch all of that as we go on out in time. And then finally, our MJO signal getting into phase 7. Let me get back over here, phase 7 and then phase 8. Phase 8 is good for cold in the center and eastern portion of the country, and that will go on around the horn, hopefully to 1 and 2. European monthlies continue to show that. So we're looking at everything remaining on track. Okay, so I'm not going to belabor any of that stuff. I talked about that extensively in yesterday's video. Go back and watch that. As I said, it's linked here. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button down below. We're growing rapidly, and I really appreciate all of you who have signed on over the past couple of weeks, and of course before that too. But thank you all to the new subscribers. Hit the like button if you like the content. Leave a comment for me if you have any questions or anything, and certainly a prayer request. If there's anything I can support you around, please put it down there. Happy to do that. Pray for you guys every single day, and certainly appreciate, as I said, the support. All that helps YouTube push the channel out. Can't do it without you. So thank you again for the support. Now we're going to take a look here at the European forecast for the next couple of days as we get through the rest of the week. And so we're looking at this afternoon and we're seeing showers and even snow showers in the higher elevations out here in the Rockies. In the Four Corners region, plenty of shower activity around. Showers will be working out of the southeast and the mid-Atlantic as we go through the day. A couple of showers up through the northern part of Minnesota toward International Falls. And then we've got another storm system working into the west coast, bringing some wind and rain and snow in the higher elevations, although a lot of rain, or much of the precipitation will be rain for this one. And then that storm system begins to take shape and slip into the southern plains and kind of wind up a little bit out here, sending some rain into the Tennessee Valley by the time we get into the overnight hours Thursday. And potentially thunderstorms out here along and around this low pressure in Oklahoma building up and back into Texas as well. So look for a few thunder boomers there. Another system working into the southwest and bringing some more rain into the LA basin and parts of the desert southwest as we go on in toward the weekend. Friday afternoon, some more showers slipping into the northeast, and then rain potentially into the mid-Atlantic and parts of the southeast and Tennessee Valley as we get into Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon, and that should clear out. High pressure getting in control by the time we get into Sunday. A few more showers up here toward the northwest, and back into the southwest continues to be cloudy and wet out there as we get through the day on Sunday. That's your forecast. Now, as far as the temperatures go, we'll see plenty of 30s and 40s today with 70s and 80s across the south. Very, very mild for this time of year. As I said, it's above normal, even up into the plains as well. Kind of chilly back out in the west. Temperature regime doesn't change all that much as we get into Thursday with much the same temperature pattern. Same into Friday too. Maybe cools back a little bit here in the north or in the mid section of the country, but 30s and 40s up north. Again, 60s, 70s, and 80s down in the southeast, and cool back into the northwest too with highs in the 40s and 50s. And then we get a big blank spot, but you can tell by the color scheme we're still looking at 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s down here in the southeast. Only cool spots northeast and in the Rockies, and the same for Sunday as well. So not a lot of change this week in the temperature pattern, but boy, oh boy, that is going to change next week. Low temperatures below freezing and teens and 20s up into the northeast and the Great Lakes across much of the northern tier, with the warm spots being in the southern plains over to the lower Mississippi Valley into the southeast. A little bit of wedging coming in here in the upper southeast, keeping us low with lows in the 40s as we get on into Friday morning. Look at that. Boom. Cool temperatures working into the northwest and the western third of the country, into the northern tier and the northeast too. And then we blank out the maps for Saturday and Sunday, but the regime spells cold weather across the north and warmer weather across the south and the east. And that's the forecast over the next couple of days. And we'll just go ahead and get all that screens. All the colors are gone. Nothing going on as far as the sun really has to offer us. KP is very, very low. Proton flux and nil because we don't have anything going on there. And of course, a small little solar flare, but nothing headed toward us. So that is good news. Did have an earthquake, a 4.1 down here just north of, looks like San Francisco. And so we're seeing a lot of, that's not San Francisco. What is that? Sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. That is near, where are we at here? Sorry, I had this pulled up and it's not here anymore. Atacastero. I'm not sure how to say that, but in any event, it's down here towards Southern California. And as we look at it, we can see there San Francisco way up there, Sacramento and LA. So we're kind of in between, sort of mid-south in California. In any event, we had an earthquake. Hopefully you guys are okay. Nothing else is going on in that region at all. No volcanoes to speak of. And finally, wrap things up with the moon. Look at this, a new moon in just one day. Tomorrow we'll have, or overnight tonight, we'll have a new moon. We're already at 0.07, so that is on its way down. It's going to bounce up tomorrow and head us back toward the full moon, which is called the cold moon. We already learned about that earlier this year in December, on December the 4th. So that is the show for today. Got to get you the answer to that IQ question, and here it is. During which part of the solar cycle are the northern lights typically the strongest? The minimum, the maximum, the equinox period, or the lunar eclipse phase? And as you may have guessed, it is the solar maximum. Okay, so that is your answer. If you got it right, pat yourself on the back. In any event, folks, that is the show for today. I will be traveling the next couple of days, so I may not get an episode out or a video out, but I will post a community note if anything changes. And certainly you can follow me on X. I'll be posting there too. So I hope you all have a wonderful end to your week. And I'll be back again very soon with another video update. Take care, everybody, and have a good day. God bless.